All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Touching Grass podcast, where this is a podcast where we have two Appalachians and two Midwesterners. We try to talk about what's happening in the really real world out there and push back against the all too online dipshits that we have to deal with pretty much every day now. This is what is today? Today is Wednesday, October 15th, and I'm Woods, and I'm here with Adam and Charles. We're missing one of our Midwesterns. So again, it's a Appalachian heavy podcast. That's the way we like it. Right, Adam? Oh, way to sell it there. How you guys doing? It's been a while since we recorded.
Yeah, well, I mean, right, nothing's happened, so we just didn't have anything to talk about.
Nothing ever happens.
We actually were just talking offline, off air, whatever the fuck you want to call it, that like the first three topics that we were going to talk about, like everybody talks too much about them, so we weren't going to talk about them. So I guess I'll just keep like frantically panicking online about how the rule of law is going to shit, but that's all right. It's okay. I drink. I'll get through it.
Everything's expensive, and that's annoying. And now I've covered our economics section.
Yeah, we do need to have. I mean, our other podcast hosts. Chris, he always sends us messages about these economic indicators that I honestly don't pay attention to. So the next time he's able to record with us, I do want to have a deep dive on that because it's odd things that I don't think to look at, like credit defaults and credit missed payments, things like that. Really odd things.
Attention to those economic indicators, but I am not going to have a monologue. There is one other item that we're not discussing tonight, but which I do want to mention. There is a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. The living hostages have been returned, and some of the bodies of the deceased hostages have also been returned, and hopefully this ceasefire lasts and Hamas is disarmed and the Palestinian people and the Israeli people can move forward.
I couldn't agree with you more. There's not a word of that I have a problem with. It's amazing that we finally got this deal done. The thing I heard was that like as far as the deceased prisoners, they were going to search for them, which seemed weird to me. I heard that phrase on the news. I kind of hoped that they knew where they were all, like they were able to, the deceased prisoners had been kept so they could be returned back to Israel for, proper burial and everything. That kind of struck me when I heard that in the news. But yeah, this is a great thing. Hopefully the ceasefire holds. I did a quick Google when it was announced, because like as soon as the ceasefire was announced and the hostages were returned that Monday morning, of course, everybody's like, well, this probably isn't going to hold because blah, 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 blah. And like, so I try to do a quick Google, and there's just too many factions and things to like, to go back in history and be like, these ceasefires have always fallen apart because of, A or B. So we really just got to like hope for the best and like, just, ride it out, see where it goes.
Yep. So let's move on from the tentative resolution of this active conflict to the Young Republicans campaign group chat.
Yeah. We wanted like I said before, Adam and I, like whenever we did podcasts before, we always joke that the outline never really fucking mattered because we do whatever we want, and we've totally done that today. Like we're throwing everything out. But the two things we wanted to talk about just to get back on and record is this Young Republicans group chat that is actually bonkers, and then we're going to talk some football because I know Adam and Charles want to talk some football. But yeah, anybody want to jump in like where we are with this Politico article?
So was it yesterday that it came out?
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Politico released an article where they disclosed a leak of a group chat from a certain faction of the Young Republicans, and the circumstances of how it came to be in Politico's possession are confusing, but somebody felt at odds with the rest of that group, and they took this relatively incriminating text and made it public.
Right.
I'd say it's a bit more than relatively incriminating.
I have the Southern gift of understatement. As you can see in the headline there, the first words of this article's headline are "I love Hitler," which, I mean, I'm not sure there's any context that would be mediating there.
No. And the funny thing about this to me is that when you read through the article, it's a lot about like internal power struggles and like internal beefs of the Young Republicans, which I heard somebody call LRs, which I don't like at all. I don't like that nomenclature at all. And like, I don't understand how this much racism and misogyny and anti-Semitism like surfaces in a beef between two opposing groups in the Young Republicans. That's wild to me that this is just where they go with it.
You know, I'm not to jump right into the the meta-analysis, but the fact that something like this existed was not surprising to me. But the reaction from institutional Republican elected officials and party officials was surprising to me in two different respects. In one way, I was pleasantly surprised with how seriously certain state party chairs took it, and how decisively they acted.
Yeah.
You know, the same day this came out, the Kansas Republican Party just nuked their entire Young Republicans chapter, because one of their one or more of their senior members were key players in this chat. And, you know, that's cleaning your own tent. That's what you like to see. That's holding your own side accountable. And that's something that I would like to see more of from basically everybody. But the other direction was less encouraging. And that was that the vice president got on TV and downplayed this and what about it, and it basically just said, well, you know, some young kids, and we're going to come back to that, some young kids, what they say in a group chat just isn't important. And first of all, I get that some people, when they see a group name like Young Republicans, assume that this is talking about like college kids or teenagers or something. It's not. It basically just means you're not old enough to run for president. Everybody involved in this is in their 30s. And two, they're not just one-off random college kids. Well, they're not college kids at all, but they're not random one-off people. These are senior staffers for Republican elected officials. One of them is a Republican elected official himself. There was a Vermont state senator involved in this chat.
Yeah, but Adam, we do have to add the caveat that the truly crazy people are always state senators.
True. So. And they're usually in the tiny minority caucus of the of a state controlled by the other party. So this follows that model.
Yeah, I mean he checks like if you had to pick like who would be in this sort of chat, he checks like every box really. With his 1488, he was the 1488 hotel room guy, right? I can't remember.
I didn't hear that.
Whenever you get like a critical mass of Hitlerite particles, they just all blend together for me.
Is this kind of like how if you get enough libertarians together and let them talk long enough, they talk about they get to the age of consent?
If by enough libertarians you mean two?
Yeah. Or if you leave one alone long enough with like a couple stiff drinks, they like start doodling out. Man, should be able to marry kids. Fuckers.
Oh, I think I may have confused him with a different one. Searching through the article.
Oh, sorry, Mr. State Senator. We didn't mean to defame you by suggesting that you were the 1488 guy. You just said some other anti-Semitic stuff.
Yeah, you know, just I have a really hard time understanding how anyone would intentionally remain in this group chat, um, unless they were very comfortable with this sort of things.
I mean, that's the only way you stay in.
Oh no, excuse me. Here's why I thought he was 1488 hotel room guy. In another instance, Douglas, the Vermont state senator, describes to the group members how one of Paget's Jewish colleagues may have made a procedural error related to the number of Maryland delegates permitted at the national convention. Quote, I was about to say you're giving nationals too much credit and expecting the Jew to be honest. Breonna Douglas, Sam's wife, and the Vermont Young Republicans National Committee member replied to her husband's message.
Well then.
Yeah. Hi, I'm the dishonest Jew who accidentally said that you guys were the ones who did the 1488 hotel room. My bad. You're actually just anti-Semites. Fuck off.
Yeah. It's baffling to me that like you said, you would have to be 100% on board with this to stay in this group chat, and also,
or at least like very comfortable with it.
So
I have deleted text chains from friends because they, you know, I have friends that just went off on tangents. I'm like, yep, I don't need to be in this. I don't need to look at that. You know, like, nope. As a policy, you know, I'm an advisor for one of our fraternity chapters. As policy, they say not to be on any group chats with the fraternity, and I'm like, no shit. Like, you know, if there's a group chat that has something incriminating in it, they don't need to see my name in the list. Like, it's just like, you don't do this shit. And the idea that they didn't think it was going to be leaked, it just baffles me.
So this goes to, and it's an article that actually came out back in April. I don't know how familiar either of you guys are with Richard Hanania.
No, that name doesn't sound familiar.
I have seen that name on Twitter.
So he's a Substack writer, and he had his own, you know, checkered past of having been an online racist back when he was like a teenager to like early 20s, but has kind of mellowed in his old age of late 30s or early 40s. And I've become kind of convinced of his redemption arc because he's been consistent about it for so long. But back in April, he's lately been extremely critical of the current direction of the Republican Party. Back in April, he put out an article that he called The Based Ritual, that basically is about this type of phenomenon, which is where folks in this movement feel that they need to say things like this as a shibboleth to show that they're a fellow traveler and to demonstrate a certain like level of mutual trust that they're willing to say these things in front of each other. And I think there's quite a bit to that.
Putting the article in the chat, by the way. Yeah, I think there's some of that. I think there's also, you know, one of since we've had online discussion forums, the only real way to make sure that your online discussion forum doesn't eventually turn into a Nazi discussion forum is to kick out the Nazi immediately. Because otherwise they just go, oh, it's just jokes, man, you're overreacting. And then their fellow travelers join, and before you know it, your discussion forum is populated by Nazis making Nazi jokes, and they've driven out all of your other users. And so transpose that onto how to deal with them in political movements, and you start to see where the breakdown has occurred.
Yeah, this is kind of a classic story. The one, and it's I've heard it told several times. The one that always sticks with me is in New York, and a writer was traveling, he's visiting New York, walks into the local pub near his hotel, walks in and sits down, orders a beer. Everything seems fine. The guy walks in behind him, sits down, a couple seats down from him, see button up shirt, tucked into some khakis, and like just sits there. And the bartender just doesn't even hesitate. He's like, "You get the fuck out." And you know, he like literally throws the guy out of the bar, and you know the rider's just kind of perplexed, like, what the fuck happened? Like, that guy wasn't doing anything, he just ordered a beer like I did. And the bartender comes back and says, yeah, he's a fucking Nazi. They send the ones that don't look like, you know, the actual, you know, Heil Hitler, you know, jackbooted thugs, they send them in there first, and then you get used to them, and then suddenly your bar's the Nazi bar. He's like, so we kick them out the second we know who they are. And he's like, it's the same principle. Yeah, like as soon as you see that behavior, you've got to have, you know, it's the it's like the conundrum of tolerance. I know I'm saying that wrong, but like, you know, you can't be tolerant to the intolerant, you know, or they'll take over.
You're thinking of Popper's paradox of tolerance.
Yeah, thank you. I knew I was going to say it wrong, so I said something. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It is what it is.
The main point here, I think, is that we need to not entertain this. Like, I mean, the word normalization gets overused so much, but I don't know what else to call it when the whole tone of the discussion of people defending this is, oh, well, you know, that's just people talking in a group chat. That's just the guys talking.
Locker room talk. Let's
not, like, no, push back on that. I'm not in any group chats that say things like this. I wasn't in any group. Not that these are college kids. I wasn't in any group chats that said things like this when I was in college.
Nope.
Have I said some things I wouldn't want to read in Politico? Sure. But this is a different level. These are different things than the things that you have said in your indiscreet moments.
And kind of to bolster the point you had earlier, like a lot of this is how it's being reacted to by the actual political power structure, the leaders of either party. Because the problem with this is like Adam said, these are not college kids. The article says they're between 18 and 40. Most of them are in their 30s and 40s because, like you said, they're just not young. They're not old enough to run for president yet. That's why they're considered young Republicans. But these are the people that will be the farm team for the leadership of the Republican Party for the next decade, at least, you know. And so this is why it can't be tolerated, because if this is tolerated at this level, when they start being drafted to run for House and Senate positions, excuse me, you know, AGs, state AGs, governors, they're coming from this cesspool, and that's not okay. We can't let that be, you know, just normalized, like you said. And the other thing is, you talked earlier about cleaning your own house, which is what you should do. You talked about you were disappointed with JD Vance's response, and I agree, because what JD Vance did was he said he pointed to, and this is a scandal that I have heard very little about because I don't pay attention to Virginia elections. But JD Vance basically just pointed to statements made by Jay Jones, who is running for the Attorney General of Virginia, if I'm not stupid.
Yes, he is running for the Attorney General of Virginia. And like, I do think it's important to say that the statements that he made were pretty fucking repulsive.
Right. He apparently sent some texts in 2022 that talked about putting 2 bullets in the head of his Republican counterparts, or some Republican opponent. I haven't read that far.
He was very inappropriately spinning a common turn of phrase where, like, people would say, like, if, I don't know, Hitler, Stalin, and somebody you really don't like are in a room and you had 2 bullets, you'd shoot the guy you don't like twice. Like, that's what he said.
Okay.
But that's something you can't, like, it's a way to very over dramatically say, I really hate this guy.
Right.
But you have to be on a different level of care in what you say when you are a public official.
What he said was, if given a choice between Adolf Hitler, Pol Pot, and Gilbert, then Gilbert gets 2 bullets.
Yeah.
He later elaborated in a phone call that, quote, it would take Gilbert's wife holding their dying children in her arms for him to act on gun safety legislation. Like, maybe tone it back. Like, if
not acceptable, just plain
Yeah.
not acceptable. And I think the difference in the, but this was what JD Vance pointed to immediately, saying, but he also said what Adam was saying earlier, like, oh, it's just a bunch of college kids, don't worry about it, locker room talk. But what this guy said was way worse. What about us straight up? The difference is that Democrats are calling for him to either step down, or Abigail Spanberger, if he wins the election, to be very clear that he will resign and they will replace him if he wins. Like,
Well,
he hasn't said he's going
point,
to step down yet.
Early voting has already started, so it's like they can't get it. They can't take him off the ballot.
Right. Yeah, they can't. They can't replace him. So,
and I would like to see Abigail Spanberger and the presumptive Speaker of the Virginia House, if the Democrats take the House, come out and say, like, we want a Democratic Attorney General. If this guy wins, we will not swear him in. He needs to step down, and we'll appoint somebody else.
Yeah, that's basically what everybody. She hasn't said that yet, but that's the groundswell of comment from the Democrats in Virginia, and that's just night and day from what is happening in the Republican Party. Before we started this recording, I was downstairs watching the news, and apparently the national Young Republicans have tweeted out about how horrid this is, and they're not going to accept it, and then everybody involved should resign. Which, hey, good on them. That's what they should say, and that's what should happen. Like, it's just not that fucking hard.
Now, granted, as one would expect, the Twitter discussion of this has been an absolute cesspool.
Are you? Wait a minute. I thought X, the Everything app, is where we went to handle everything.
Excuse me. I didn't mean to dead name X, the Everything app.
To this day, I don't type in X. I type in Twitter and make it redirect, because fuck Elon Musk and fuck X.
But just a lot of actually, this is good from guys with, Roman statue avatars. But
it's so dumb.
I don't know. So I need to every Lent I delete the Twitter app off my phone, and every year I say, like, this is the year I'm just not going to re-download it on Easter, and yet here I am.
See, this might be because I think I'm 10 years older than you, Adam, and I think Charles.
You're not that much older than me.
Huh?
I said you're not that much. How old are you?
I'm 45.
Oh, you are 10 years older than me. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought there was exactly 10. I think you're between us, right, Charles?
Yep.
Okay. I think it's just because I never got into it because I'm a little bit older than you guys. But Twitter always just seemed kind of silly to me, only having 180 characters or 240, whatever it is now. I have the app, and I've never uninstalled it, but I also never go to it. Like, the only time I go to Twitter is to upload our videos, and then if somebody did something stupid on Twitter and I see a link, and then I follow the link. I don't just scroll Twitter, which is probably good for me, but I know it's not good. It's it's just a weird thing. So, but yeah, no, I guess that's how I've kind of protected myself from the majority of the cesspool. I'm not saying I don't get it, but it's still there. Well, you guys want to talk about football now? We're gonna keep this short and sweet. I think we've
let's talk about football. Unless Charles, you want to cap us off on this?
Yeah, we talked about these little races long enough. Let's talk about something fun and then have everybody go back to their week 7s.
Oh yeah, I mean, football, it's great. It's America's sport.
Weren't you going to try to convince us all that the Eagles are America's team or some shit?
Dude, I am solo parenting this week while Eva travels for work and putting in like full days in my workshop. I don't have the bandwidth for that argument. I'm just really here enjoying the NFL. And the age of parity, and Roger Goodell absolutely 100% leaning on the referees to make certain calls. I don't know if you guys saw the Kansas City Chiefs game, but I have never seen so many missed calls favor one team so heavily.
I saw the beginning of that, and then I caught it after, like right after it ended, because I just wanted to make sure that the Lions lost. That's all I really cared about. I didn't really care about the game.
Yeah, I mean, I also wanted the Lions to lose that game because it benefits the Eagles if other teams lose.
Right.
And they're in the NFC. But when you have the Chiefs not getting penalties called on them, in fact, they did not have a single penalty the entire game when they're committing some fairly obvious penalties. I'm not saying that what Branch did at the end of the game when he slapped the shit out of Juju Smith-Schuster was an appropriate reaction. On the other hand, he was illegally blocked in the back by a player who like, if you level that kind of block, you are trying to hurt the other person. I'm sorry. There's no way to spin that one. And, you know, who was taunting him the whole time, which the league has said is a point of emphasis this year, unless apparently you're on the Kansas City Chiefs. And then, you know, at the end of the game, Mahomes, who was also doing that, goes to like be like, "Oh, hey, good game." Yeah, you know what? Fuck it, punch him in the face at that point. Like, it's not an appropriate response, but sometimes people are really just begging for it.
You know, I will. The one point of discussion from that game that I will push back on is that flag when Aiden Hutchinson absolutely trucked Patrick Mahomes. That was indeed roughing the passer. That was one of the most obvious roughing the passer calls I've ever seen. And everybody saying otherwise is just buying into the trope.
Are we talking about the one where he makes contact with his head with his arm?
We're talking about the one where the ball had left Mahomes' hand a solid 3 seconds before Hutchinson hit him.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you was that the one where he got kind of like block pushed into him, but it really wasn't that much of a block push?
Not that I saw. I mean, no,
I might be mixing up my games here. I'm not saying that like some of those penalties were BS. I'm saying that it was total BS that there were a lot of non-calls that seemed to benefit one team.
And I will say that even with it amuses me greatly that even with the Zebras being the 12th man for them all season, the Chiefs are still 3-3.
Yeah. And Adam, you were talking about how like since the Chiefs are playing so much ass, like, you know, offline, that, you know, it's effectively, you know, ended Mahomes' dynasty. And
I am ready to declare it. Well, granted, this could be a fluke season, but I am ready to declare the dynasty over if the Chiefs are playing the Raiders in Arrowhead this weekend. And I don't even need the Raiders to beat the Chiefs for me to declare that the dynasty's over. If it's close, the dynasty's over. Because the Raiders are ass. And the Chiefs are playing them at home. And they should absolutely steamroll the Raiders. And if they don't, that is blood in the water.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the dynasty ended when they didn't, you know, when the Eagles beat them in the Super Bowl. Like, I know Charles likes to bring up the fact that the Eagles took the Packers out, but I was cheering for the Eagles that Super Bowl because I don't like dynasties. I don't like it when a team goes, wins 6 Super Bowls in a row and shit like that. I don't like that shit.
See, like, I'm fine. I'm fine with dynasties. What I'm not fine with is like cheating to have your dynasty. Because you're cheating at that point, and that's uncool.
All right.
Or dynasties where like someone in the NFL's marketing department decides, hey, what if we just like call games in a really biased way for one team? Let's see what happens. And I'm not saying that's what the NFL is doing for the Chiefs. I'm just saying that if you have a team which over like a 4 or 5 year span benefits from an insane number of calls and non-calls relative to every other team, and that team subsequently wins a ton of very close games, it does kind of look like someone's looking out for them in the league office.
I agree. And I have to, I'm always mesmerized by, I know there's people that keep track of all these stats, right? Because you hear the announcers just throw out the most random fucking stats ever, Like Joe Flacco's amazing on Sundays when there's a full moon or some shit like that. They just have all that stuff somewhere. They got to have some kind of statistic that tracks how many penalties.
There is, I saw a post, and I don't want to spread fake news if this isn't true.
Right.
Because it was I couldn't see a link to the alleged study, but I saw a post, I think it was yesterday, that some university academic department had analyzed penalties called in playoff games, and the penalties called in the Chiefs' favor were the most likely to result in a first down of among any teams that have played in the playoffs in the past so many years.
Yeah, that's a kind of trend I'm talking about. It would have to be something like, penalties caused for or against a team. A percentage of those that ended up it being in resulting in a first down or a turnover of some sort, something like that. Yeah, I'm sure that is out there. Now, organizing it in a way that can be easily read and not weaponized is a different story. But like Charles is saying, if the Chiefs go to win the Super Bowl this year and it's by playing shitty and just beating all their teams by, a field goal because it looks to even the casual observer that the refs,
Well, I think it's putting the cart before the horse to be talking Super Bowl about the Chiefs right now. Come in there,
right? Yeah, of course, right.
Playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, here we are. We're standing here. I've got to bring it up. For those of you who haven't listened before, I'm a Packers fan. Charles is an Eagles fan. Adam is a long-suffering Raiders fan, but you got to respect you sticking in, hanging in there.
But praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. The Raiders finally won. They snapped that 4-game losing streak. Granted, the Titans are terrible, but you're supposed to beat terrible teams, and they did.
Yeah, I mean, and I was talking to somebody at work, and the Packers are what the fuck are we? We're 3-1-1 now, and because we lost to the Browns, didn't we?
Yeah, you lost to the Browns and you tied the Cowboys.
Right. And honestly, the tie to the Cowboys pissed me off more than the loss to the Browns because every team gets a one-off. One of the things I do like about NFL football is that at any point, any team can beat the other team. They are professionals. There are shittier teams and there are better teams. But at any point, you can just, go on a tear and beat, the number one seed in the playoffs, whatever it is. So, the Packers losing to the Browns, yeah, that sucked. I didn't enjoy that, but tying the Cowboys pissed me off more because that was just annoying. But we got the Eagles. What do we do? The Eagles I'm in the wrong fucking bracket here. Oh, Eagles are 4-2, so they're doing good. The Raiders are 2-4. It's week 7. We've got another 10 games to play. All I know is every Sunday I'm going to put on my cheese hat. I'm going to make snacks. I'm going to watch some football because we need to touch grass and get out there and have these kind of conversations with friends or enemies. I don't know. You can start a beef with somebody who's a different fan than you are.
Well, my team plays in a dome, so it's more like touch turf, but
it's okay. That's okay. It counts. The principle is the same. My wife and I visited the Packers Stadium, and we went down on the field, and they tell you very specifically not to touch the grass, and this lady just walks out on it. I'll never forget that. As soon as the guy was done talking, he was like, "What are you doing?" She was like, "Oh, sorry." All right. Anybody have anything else to say? We said we were going to keep it short and sweet. Wrap this up.
Goodbye, nice people.
All right.
Have a good night.
People. Good fucking luck, America.